At 9:32 last night, our dispatch center received a call of shots fired in the Maridale community, which is in Lafourche Parish, bordering Terrebonne Parish. Apparently there was a large gathering of people for a informal street party, if you will, on Highland Drive, which is one of the streets in Maridale in the subdivision. The first unit arrived on the scene 5 minutes later at 9:37. The crowd was dispersing. There were persons who were injured for having been struck by bullets from firearms, and the officers were able to start administering first aid, assisting in getting victims to the hospital and securing the scene as a crime scene. It's less than 24 hours since this incident occurred. As an update, I can assure you that we have not wasted a minute of time in following up on leads, generating leads, and extending to our partners like ATF and other local law enforcement support for help or collaboration for assistance in solving this crime. There were 7 individuals who were struck by bullets from, we believe, 2 different firearms that may have been used. Of those 7 victims, 5 were female and 2 were male, all 7 between the ages of 17 and 25. There were 2 other females between the ages of 21 and 25 who were injured as a result of probably the pandemonium associated with people trying to seek cover or get out of harm's way. Of those 9 people, all have been released from the hospital. We're very blessed and fortunate to say that there were no fatalities, and it appears that everyone will fully recover or recover from the injuries that they received. There's 1 person still hospitalized. Thus far, from a crime scene perspective, we have recovered 1 firearm with DNA evidence on that firearm, and we have sent that firearm to ATF for a detailed forensic analysis to include checking the casings, checking for firing markings on the projectile, and any other evidence that might be associated with that particular firearm. We have also recovered 12 casings, 11 spent casings, and 1 live round at the scene from 2 different caliber weapons. The indication is that the weapons and the calibers are consistent with handguns. The event, we are told, and much of what we are told is very speculative at this point because we're, as I mentioned, within 24 hours of this incident. We're told that this event may have started as some sort of a graduation party from a preschooler. And of course, today, with the advent of social media, once 10 people get together for an event, they become 10 more people. From each of those people become 100 people, and it expands to have the whole street full of people. We have every reason to believe that the majority of the people there were legitimately socializing in a forum, and unfortunately, at least 2 or more individuals with firearms and without any regard to the safety of themselves and to the people around them shot into this crowd, creating the injuries that I described. We don't have a motive. We do not, at this point, have a suspect. However, we do have a lot of information and leads that we're following up to include analyzing digital evidence, identifying and speaking to persons who were the victims or who had been injured in this event. In addition to that, and this type of shooting, where we've seen it in the past, infrequently, but we have seen it in the past, sometimes it's typical of 2 or more people who have some disagreement or what might be called a beef. And they make the decision to settle it among themselves. And it's a callous group of people who are prone to violence. And as you can see from this incident and similar incidents across the country, they have 0 regard for the sanctity of human life and for innocent victims that might be harmed by their unwillingness to settle things in an amicable way and their unwillingness to involve law enforcement. By the time the officers got there and the scene was secured, there were estimates of as many as 400 or 500 people there, and within a short period of time, the crowd was diminished to maybe 10 individuals who lived nearby. It's not unusual for people to be genuinely concerned in a situation like that and to not obviously put themselves in harm's way of these violent, lethal criminals by being seen talking to police officers. However, what we have found through past incidences, and other agencies as well have corroborated that the information will start trickling in. That obviously there are people who know things and who have seen things, and we want to use this press conference as an opportunity to appeal to the public, in particular people who may have been at this event and members of the Marydale community, to let them know that we are unified in our willingness and our commitment to keeping this community safe, to identifying the person or persons responsible, to apprehending them and holding them accountable. Anything that you know or heard, it doesn't have to be firsthand information. Our investigators may just need that one nugget of information, a vehicle description, a nickname, a street name, something that people were talking about, a text message, a video on a smartphone. Whatever information you may have or pick up, please contact our office directly. Contact ATF directly. Lafourche-terrebonne in Assumption Parish are part of the Bayou Region Crime Stoppers. That has been productive in solving cases in the past. The Crime Stoppers process is 100% anonymous, so your anonymity will be protected. If you're motivated to receive a reward for your information, rewards are available, and that'll be published as well and has been published. So we want to encourage you to take a deep breath, to realize that we are here to work with you to make your community safe, to bring people to justice. We're blessed beyond belief to know that out of 7 people who were struck by bullets from 2 or more shooters, they're all at home except for one right now who will probably be released. There was no fatalities, and that's only by the grace of God, because that reckless behavior of a person who is armed with a weapon going into a large crowd and indiscriminately firing is almost always going to produce casualties. We have some digital evidence, and we can document that the shooting was over in the span of 3 seconds. This was a very quick event, and it resulted in people, of course, seeking cover and getting away from the area and putting themselves out of danger. If you want to ask any specific questions, I'll do my best to respond. However, we're so preliminarily into this investigation, and we're still getting leads, and we anticipate leads to start generating at a greater frequency, and some leads don't pan out, but that's okay. We want to chase down every lead, and if it doesn't pan out, we'll redirect our resources. We will be applying for search warrants to receive information related to digital evidence. At that point, I think we're going to continue to make progress. We're blessed to have the resources and the expertise of the New Orleans Field District of ATF. They're stretched pretty thin, as they were discussing with me earlier, but here we are, less than 24 hours, and we have the acting special agent in charge and 2 other agents here showing concern and willingness to do whatever they need to do to partner with local and state law enforcement to bring an end to this senseless crime. Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Well, good afternoon. Is it safe to assume that maybe a consideration here is that it was 2 individuals at the party shooting at each other, and that maybe the victims were hit, I guess it's just bystanders there?
We certainly, based on the fact that there are projectiles with 2 different calibers, we are surmising that at least 2 people actually fired 2 different weapons. There's also a strong belief that they could be people that have some issue, some beef, some disagreement, and that's how they choose to settle the disagreement. We can't rule out that one of the people that went to the hospital could or may be involved as a suspect, but we have nothing to suggest that other than, if I'm standing next to you, firing a gun at you, and you're firing a gun at me, there's a chance we could have got hit as well.
Sheriff, you talked about digital evidence, and we saw that there were cameras on the front of each street. Do you guys have video of this incident?
We do have some video as a result of the cameras that you have referred to, but in addition to that, when I talk about digital evidence, I'm talking on a broader scale. I'm talking about cameras that private individuals and businesses have. I'm talking about social media, text messages. I'm talking about phones and GPS coordinates on phones. There's a lot of other aspects of digital evidence, even vehicles. Vehicles now are computers with an engine and wheels, and you can get a lot of information about where a vehicle was, at what time it was, whether it was speeding or not speeding, that sort of information. So the area of digital evidence is constantly expanding exponentially on a daily basis, and it's really a great force multiplier, but it takes a lot of human resources to manage that. It can get overwhelming, but it also helps you process leads and be consistent. So we're not going to leave, but you never get away from good old-fashioned police work. You never get away from fingerprints, from DNA, from physical evidence, from witnesses, and everything that makes a criminal case prosecutable.
Sheriff, can you talk more about the handgun that was recovered? Y'all are confident that was one of the ones used in the shooting, and how is that going to help the investigation?
We're not confident that it's used. We recovered one that we located under a vehicle. So the part of having ATF here is to have them use their forensics to determine if it's related or could be related.
You all said you all believe 2 different handguns were used. So one was recovered and you all don't know about the other one?
We have projectiles from 2 different calibers to suggest 2 different guns. We did recover a gun. The caliber of the gun we recovered is consistent with the caliber of one or more of the spent casings, but that does not conclusively guarantee that that was the gun that fired that weapon. We will be able to find out at some point through ballistics testing.
Do you all know if that gun was stolen, the one that you all did recover?
We have confirmed it was not stolen.
What kind of caliber did you recover?
At this point, other than the .40 caliber, I'd rather not discuss anything else on caliber that might hinder our investigation.
Have you talked to the person who owns that gun?
Not as of yet. We are attempting to locate the individual so that we can have an interview.
Sheriff, you talked a lot about the fact that the victims, it seems like all are going to be okay. Can you give us any more information about their the injuries that they suffered? I know one person at the scene told us that maybe one of them was shot multiple times, as many as 5. What can you tell us?
I don't recall that anyone was shot 5 times. I don't want to be contradicted on that, but I have not looked at and got a medical report. I do know one victim had a graze wound on a forearm. Other victims were hit in their extremities, arms and legs. There was one victim that was struck in the shoulder and may have had a lung puncture. That's what I know now. I can have the public information officer follow up with a more detailed description of the types of injuries that were sustained once we have a clear understanding.
Do you believe that the people who were shooting were in the crowd, or is it possible they could have been kind of in a surrounding area, or?
They had to be in close proximity. This was a very dense crowd, and when we looked at the crime scene, the projectiles were in an area smaller than this room, maybe half the size of this room. So it was a very close, 3 seconds, dense crowd.
We spoke to a driver and it looked like a bullet had shattered her window, but then she said she thinks it may have been a rock that was thrown at her window. Do you all know anything about that?
Yes, I was at the scene last night, and I know the vehicle you're talking about, and it did have a area of the windshield that looked like it would have been maybe hit by something, but not a bullet. We ruled that out. And while you're speaking on bullets, just a afterthought, and you're speaking of the injured, we also are seeing if there's a possibility to recover any projectiles from any of the victims that projectiles may have stayed within their body. Now, that's a medical decision. It's not uncommon for medical professionals to determine that leaving a bullet within someone's body is less harmful than trying to remove it.